Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Brittany Hodak. She is an award winning entrepreneur, author, and customer experience speaker who helps businesses turn customers into superfans. She's delivered keynotes to hundreds of organizations around the world, including American Express, Benihana, and Keller Williams. Her trademark supermodel framework has empowered teams in every industry to transform customer apathy into advocacy. A former chief experience officer at experience.com and co founder of the Superfan company, Brittany has worked with beloved brands and entertainers like Walmart, Katy Perry, and Dolly Parton. Brittany is not just an incredible customer experience speaker and influencer, she's also my mom friend that I've gotten to know through the last few years, and I'm so excited she's here today. Welcome, Brittany. Brittany, it's so good to see you. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast.
Thanks, Blake. It's great to be back with you.
All cozy and snowed in Nashville today, and kids are home from school, so, like, triple thank you for doing this.
I wore my best t-shirt for you, Blake.
Well, it's a NASA t-shirt. My son is we're really into science and robots and, like, anything STEM, so, like, super cool factor. Brittany, I never talk to you even though we're friends. I never get to talk to you because you're always on the road, which I'm so happy for you that your career is just taking off. You're speaking all the time. What do you think is the one message that really resonates with people? I mean, we have a lot to catch up on, but let's just start there. Like the one supermodel message, like what is it that resonates with your audiences so much right now that you're noticing?
I think there's a couple things that I'm going to cheat and say too. Number one is the fact that there has to be an ownership of the experience to create super fans. Every single person on your team is what I like to call the acting chief of experience, meaning from the outside looking in as a customer or a potential customer, I look at somebody on your team and see the whole company. Like, I don't care what your role is, I don't care what your title is, I don't care how long you've been there, fix my problem. And so I think that really resonates, me giving people the tools and the shared language to help their team see that as this great opportunity and not feel like an obligation or a responsibility. The other thing that I think of, and I've actually been thinking about this a lot the past few days, is apathy and this idea of what a huge threat it is when our customers or even our team become apathetic and the hidden cost. Because I've yet to meet somebody who has an apathy plan for their company. But talking about NASA, so last week I was in Florida and I spoke Tuesday night in Orlando and then Thursday morning in Jacksonville. So there wasn't enough time to get home to Nashville, or it would have been for just like a few hours. So my husband said, crazy person, stay in Florida. At the last minute, literally Tuesday night in my hotel, when I looked at Google Maps, I realized how close I was to Kennedy Space Center. So I rented a car and drove over to Cape Canaveral and spent the day at Kennedy Space Center to see the Artemis 2 rocket on the launch pad. And I started thinking about how crazy it is that more people aren't talking about the Artemis 2 mission. So the launch window is opening literally in days. We're taking humans back in lunar orbit for the first time in over 50
Yeah,
years.
why
We're
haven't
gonna
we done that?
well, here's what I think. I think it's because apathy. Like, people stopped caring for all of humanity. Like, since humans could dream things, all we wanted to do was go to the moon. And then
Yeah.
we went to the moon, and less than a year later, Blake, no one cared. Literally 9 months after Apollo 11, the Apollo 13 launch was not broadcast on TV because people were like, "So what? 4 people have already gone to the moon. We've done that." So
Yeah.
I think wonder has a half-life. And it's so easy for us to just like shrug and become complacent and apathetic. And the challenge that creates for companies is like whatever was good enough 2 years ago is not good enough to keep your customers today. You have to be constantly iterating, constantly improving, constantly innovating because customers get bored. And when they get bored, they don't come back.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you think that's true across the board? Like, even I have friends like do fitness classes together and they're like, oh, you know what? It gets boring. It's the same all the time. But like someone like me, I'm such a creature of habit. Like, I love the boringness. I'm like, I like knowing what to expect. So are all of your customers different all the time and you kind of need to create a flavor for everybody?
Yeah, what's really interesting is we sort of live in this choose your own adventure world
I like
where
that.
yeah, well, because that's what your customers expect, right? They wanna be able to choose their own adventure, and somebody who loves the repetition, you've gotta be able to have a path for them to keep having that repetition, but then you've also gotta have a path for people who want the creative and the innovative and new, and that's why so many studios have the set classes, but then they also have the new things where it's, "Oh, you wanna try this for the first time, you wanna try that for the first time," and we really are in a one size fits one
Yeah.
reality right now instead of one size fits all being the model.
So it's interesting because we don't need to be. I mean, now I'm sure every talk you give, people want to hear about AI. And AI has been such a big topic for customer experience. And they say now with AI, we can actually scale these things and create that one to one that we've been talking about for 20 years. What is the role in AI in making this flavor for everybody opportunity?
So I think a lot of people right now with their AI strategy get caught up in I wanna do it because it's innovative. I wanna do it because it's cool. I wanna test it out and see what happens. And my sort of litmus test when I talk to anybody about whether or not they should implement AI in any scenario, number 1 is, does this make things easier or better for your customers or keep it at least a net neutral? And if the answer is yes, great, proceed. If the answer is no, then you move to the second question, which is, does it free up enough of your employees' time so that your team is now able to create an overall net positive for your customer? And again, if the answer is yes, then probably that's a good application for AI. But if not, then you shouldn't use it there. And what I find when I talk to customers is overwhelmingly, customers want the same thing they've always wanted. I want you to solve my problem as quickly and efficiently and effectively as possible. And if
Right.
that's with AI, great. If that's with a human, great. But most of the time, it really is going to be the right combination of the right parts and the right pieces. And that's where I think the promise of that one to one is knowing when to go left for AI, when to go right for human, or when to let people, put themselves into the right position at the right time based on the need that they have.
So one of the things that I love, whether it's your newsletter or your talks, is you always have amazing examples. You are literally one of the most energetic people I know, and you always are hungry for and curious for new examples, whether it's from your own life or things you've read or come across. I would say you're a great curator of interesting customer experiences. Is there any experience that you've had or seen recently that you want to share with my audience?
Well, one that I've only just started to talk about, but that I've been enjoying for a couple of years now is the face on my Apple Watch. Do you have an
Okay.
Apple Watch,
I
Blake?
do. I'm obsessed with it. It's right
Okay, what
here,
watch face
always.
do you have?
Boring. Like, I'm kind of obsessed with fitness. You can't tell, but it's just like time, calories, fit. You can't even
Okay.
see it, but okay, it's there.
Well, you're doing it wrong.
Okay. Should I have like a picture of my kids or what should I be doing?
Maybe you should. I don't know. My husband has a picture of our kids, but what I think is the right answer is, and we'll see if you can see it or not, it's the Snoopy watch face. So
Oh, cute.
right now, Snoopy and Woodstock are in a canoe. So I think this is the perfect analogy for taking what's possible and making something that doesn't just give your customers what they want, it delights them and gives them more. So Apple launched this watch face, I don't know, probably like 3 years ago. And there are about 150 different unique animations of Snoopy and Woodstock. And they interact with the time. So based on, the direction that the hour hand and the minute hand are pointing, they're doing different things. That in and of itself would be cool. But what's really cool about it, Blake, is that they take all of the other information that they know and incorporate it into what you're seeing. So when you work out, you'll look down at your wrist and Snoopy will be working out. He might be dancing, he might
Oh
be
my
doing
gosh.
aerobics. If you are swimming, he might be swimming, he might be scuba diving, he might be canoeing. I oftentimes know what's happening with the weather based on what I see on my wrist because it'll start snowing or it'll start raining or it'll be really windy in the Snoopy cartoon, and I'll say, Oh my god, it is raining outside, I hadn't noticed. And then the same thing with time of day, so there's some that are tied to the time of day. So what is so brilliant about that is Apple took all of the information that they have already, like, if you're wearing a watch, they have your biometric information, they know what time it is, they know what city you're in, they know what the weather is, they know if it's a holiday, and instead of keeping that siloed in different apps in different places, they said, "How can we use this contextually to make an experience that feels so immersive, so personable, so fun that people will be obsessed with and will continue to look at their wrist to see the cartoon." The other really neat thing about it, so there's certain ones that you can only see on certain days. So if it's Halloween, if it's Valentine's Day, if it's New Year's, there are cartoons that come out just once a year for you to be able to see. And the other one that they do is your birthday, because obviously your Apple ID, Apple knows when your birthday is.
Mhm.
So that makes it feel totally one to one. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
that there's, probably hundreds of thousands of other people around the world with their Apple Watch, because if they're looking at it at the same time as me, they're not getting served exactly what I'm getting served for the same reason. And I think the really cool promise of that is that, you have companies everywhere that have all of this data, but it's just siloed and they're not using it in the right way. They're not sharing it in ways that say, well, we know the things that we need to create an experience that feels one to one. Let's figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I love that example. And it's something so small. I think that's what people don't realize, like in business or like it doesn't have to be a big, grandiose gesture. It can just be something small, but makes customers feel happy, makes them feel seen, and makes them even just like laugh or smile a little bit.
Yeah, because those are the things we tell our friends about, right? Like, it's hard, like, we talk about feelings more than we talk about function. And the way something made us feel, the way an experience left us, those are the things that we talk about, not, the like nuts and bolts. Like, getting what you do right is table stakes.
I mean, let's talk about actually something we don't usually talk about, but just like being a mom, being a working mom. That's one of my favorite topics actually, and just how technology has enabled me as a customer to like live this life I wouldn't have been able to live in like the 1950s. Are there any customer experiences, technology or otherwise, that you really rely on just in your busy life as a speaker and as a working mom, but literally just as a person? Like tell us what are the technologies that you rely on that are beloved to you?
One of my favorite things about traveling, so and just to give context for people listening, I'm a keynote speaker. I speak about 65 times a year, so like more than once a week. And so I am on the road a lot. One of the things that I've done this year to make it a little less hectic is I pick 1 week every month where I don't travel. But when I'm on the road, the technology makes it so that my kids in a lot of ways feel like they're along for the ride, or they're participating, or they're with me. And because of that, the things that my kids think of that are possible are things that I never would have thought of was like when I was a kid. Like a couple weeks ago when my second grader was learning about Martin Luther King Jr. ahead of MLK Day at school, he said, "Mom, can we just fly to Washington D.C. because I really, really want to see this thing? It's called the Mall, and it's where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led this march, and there were a million people there. And if you stand in the middle of it, you can see the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial." And I was like, "Yeah, of course, buddy. Like, we'll pick a weekend and go." Because to them, it's not a big deal to just get on an airplane and go somewhere because they see me doing that all the time. So,
Mhm.
in terms of the technology, we FaceTime a ton. We also have a lot of traditions that we do. So, like my oldest son, he always wants a picture of where I'm sitting in the airplane because he wants to know where I'm at on the plane.
Mhm.
I fly Southwest a lot, so starting now, it's assigned seats on Southwest, but that wasn't always the case, so he was always like, "Mom, what seat are you in?"
Right.
And then my younger son really likes to see the hotel rooms, so he loves to FaceTime when I get into the hotel room, and it's funny 'cause when they come with me, without fail, we always get, like, the smallest, like, tiniest, like, Motel 6 hotel, like, from whatever event, and then when it's just me, it's, like, palatial, like, 3,000 square foot, 4-room
Right.
hotel suites, and they're always like, "Why do you have that room when we're not there?" But I would say probably FaceTime is, the one that we use the most, and the ability for them to be able to just communicate with their iPads, to me, wherever I am, makes it feel like, "Oh, mom's on an adventure and we're sort of, like, following along," rather than, "Oh, mom has left us for a couple of days and that's a bummer."
It's amazing, right? Just even just video, just feel it does feel like you're right there. And I know for me when I'm traveling, it just so much less lonely. Just when I even get like a text from a friend or I get to call home and like eat dinner with my kids and it really does make it easier. Or
Yeah.
whether I'm using Uber Eats to order my dinner to my hotel room, like, just from a safety perspective, like, I love not having to, like, go to a restaurant, which that sounds terrible, but, like, even just
Or to do it
traveling.
for your kids, right? Like, that's another one that's actually great, like, sometimes if they'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really missing you," and it's the 2nd day that I'm gone, I'm like, "Do you want mom to order you a pizza?" Or whatever it is, and then, like,
Yeah.
even though I'm in California and they're in Tennessee, I'm like, "Okay, mom just ordered whatever," and so it does sort of close that gap and make you feel close emotionally, even if you're not close geographically.
Yeah, it's amazing how you're able to curate these incredible experiences for your family. I mean, it's not a business, but like there's like some similarities. Like, how are employees using these technologies? Are employees able to use AI in a free and creative way? So let's
Yeah.
actually segue into that back to employee use of AI at work. Are you talking to leaders and managers about some of the roadblocks they're having with bringing AI into the workplace?
I am, and I'm also really working sort of off stage, like as I'm getting ready. So for pre-event calls, pre-production calls, or I do a limited amount of consulting, not a ton of it, but really helping break down the false narratives that companies have internally about AI and these perceived blocks that in reality should not be holding them back. Obviously, we need guardrails for people. Of course, we do. But there are a lot of people that are so scared about the potential worst case scenario that they're not taking advantage of some of the just like slam dunk super easy things that there are plenty of, safety nets around with AI right now. The thing that I think is really interesting that I think a lot of people are missing the boat on is people that are very anti voice AI. And they say, we voice agenic agents is something we're just not interested in because we can't imagine people ever wanting that. And
Really?
yeah, I hear that so often, and I tell
Oh.
people that would be like saying you don't want to use the internet because you remember dial like, you can't compare 2026 reality to, like, 2021 PTSD or, with the internet, like, 1999 dial-up, right? Like, you've gotta look at the technology as it exists now, and the other thing that I think people don't always appreciate is, like, Gen Alpha kids and even Gen Zers, they were using voice before they learned to type and text.
Mhm.
So, like, right now, it's nothing for my kids to just talk to ChatGPT all the time because that's all they've known, and they love being able to have a conversation. I've told this story a couple of times on social media, but my 5-year-old recently, I overheard him saying, "Alexa, you're fired. I hate you. You're the worst. Like, I don't want Alexa anymore." And he was going on and on about how worthless Alexa was because the Alexa device, in his words, was only good for telling the time and the weather, and he
Mhm.
wanted a ChatGPT device in his room because of how much
Yeah.
better the integration is with ChatGPT, and I was like, "Well, can't argue with you, like, Amazon really blew it there, like, everybody knows that ChatGPT is better even than the Alexa Plus." But I think that's one where I have been surprised at how many companies that I've had to say, "Okay, let's examine some of these underlying assumptions," and oftentimes what I find is that it's a senior leader or a team of senior leaders who they don't use it. They don't like the idea of interacting with it. It scares them, and so therefore they're making a blanket assumption about their customers without actually talking to their customers or the frontline teams that are engaging with customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame. ChatGPT, it's just incredible. Like, I literally all day am thinking about how much life and business, everything is going to change, I think. And it
Everything.
just feels like it's starting to happen. What is the number one question you get about the future of customer experience? Is it about AI or is it about something else?
You know, one question that I get a lot, probably one of the top questions that I get that I think isn't explicitly about AI, but it's part of the solution is what do I do to get my team on board? How do I
Mhm.
make my employees care about customer experience? And obviously that's like a loaded question. There are a lot of sort of layers to somebody, because you know what they're oftentimes saying is, I feel like my team doesn't care, or I feel like my team's not involved. And there are so many systemic issues, which I love that you are not afraid to like call them out and talk about them in all of the content that you do. That it's like, okay, well, let's see, you've got somebody who you're not treating very well, not paying very well, not being very understanding to the realities of them, putting your shareholders way above your employees and your customers. Let's see, I wonder why they're disengaged. But so obviously, like I said, it's sort of like a loaded question with a lot of layers. But I am shocked that I hear that one as much as I do. That the perception of leaders is that, oh, my team doesn't care. When if you ask the team, a lot of them care so deeply and so
Mhm.
much, but they become a little affected by getting their wrist slapped or their hand slapped, or getting told, "Well, why did you do that that way? That's not how I would have done it, or I wouldn't have done that." And so it's that they feel like several times they've put themselves forward, they've tried to own something, they've been rebuffed by a boss, and then they're like, "Fine, I'll disengage. Let me just like collect my paycheck, do the minimum thing that I need to do, and call it a day."
Yeah, I mean, even just the news today that Amazon is laying off 16,000 more people. I just had this thought today of like, is we've been watching a lot of Star Wars in my family with Darth Vader, who's like half robot because his body was all burned off and he's half person. Like, is that the dream to just everyone gets laid off? The robots are like literally running the company. Like, is there a point where everyone is replaced by an AI and a robot?
No, not in most industries, because the humanity matters, and AI is a tool to help people do things faster, but also to go be able to go deeper in the same amount of time. Now, would
Yeah.
companies like for everybody to be half robot? Maybe, but again, I think that speaks to a deeper issue. The thing that I always think is so weird when Elon Musk and some of the other, billionaires talk about the huge risk that we're at because the population is not continuing to increase, and what that means for humanity. I've never heard anybody make an argument tied to anything other than like GDP in the stock market of why that's a bad thing.
Mhm.
And we've got more people on the earth than there have ever been in the history of humankind. I think one of the promises of AI is that all of us have more time to explore the things that do make us uniquely human,
Yeah.
our desires, the things that we want to do, the things that we like to do. And the only people that think that that's a bad thing, and that think that the fact that people are having 2 kids per capita, or 3 kids per capita, or 5 kids per capita, depending on whatever region of the country they're in, instead of 7 or 11, are the people that are looking at it saying like, "Oh, but our shareholders need more customers to sell things to."
I don't know if I've heard that. I feel like I've heard mixed things. I feel like um some of them are worried about the future of humanity, that if we don't procreate and have children, that our species will actually die out. I actually haven't heard about the customer thing, but maybe I'm just reading different news. I haven't heard that. But let's switch gears and talk about the future of 2026, trends shaping 2026. We talked about AI. We talked about the one-to-one experience we've been talking about for so long, and now we actually can bring it. Is there any other last like trend that you're excited about this year that you're bringing to your audiences? It's only January, so like for the rest of the year.
I think one of the this is not necessarily like a trend, but a necessity. I think that because so much more search is originating within different AI platforms, it is requiring that there is more price transparency and more transparency of what the experience, especially around service providers, looks like for them to earn recommendations within the LLMs. And I think that's a really important shift that a lot of people aren't ready for. And the same way that several years ago, if you weren't communicating things correctly on your website, you just like didn't exist to Google. We're seeing those same things happen right now. That if you want to exist within agentic search and you want to be given as an option, there are certain things that are non-negotiable about having listed up front. And I think overall that is going to be a huge net positive for consumers because it's going to demand
Yeah.
more transparency.
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening. Even, I had a my friend had a party and she couldn't find the right dress, and so I just used ChatGPT to find her, like, the perfect dress, and
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, it's incredible how now search is through ChatGPT, but I've also heard that some of the information that is being served up, like, about, like, let's say, a hotel chain is wrong. So how do brands grapple with that, like, when ChatGPT is pulling misinformation?
So that is a great question, and it's a little bit of a wild, wild west right now because if there is, for instance, a chatbot powered by ChatGPT on your website, I would say you're 100% responsible, and whatever that chatbot says, it's on your website, it's within the walls that you control, like, that is your problem, and we've seen that play out in a few different court cases where it's been ruled that, yes, you're liable for any misinformation that your chatbot gives on your website. But when it's originating off your site, it's a whole different world. So you have what is legally required, which is, legally speaking, you would have little, if any, culpability there because you had no control over it. But then there's the perception side too, is how do you handle that? How do you take now a customer who's disgruntled or upset or angry and walk through it with them? And I just told you that I rented a car 5 days ago or whatever. And I had asked in Chat GPT. So it was gonna be like 25 hours that I needed it. And I was like, well, I want to get it earlier because I want to get to I want to return it in time, but I went like the extra hour at Kennedy Space Center, but I know my flight's at whatever. And it was like a one-way rental where I was returning it to somebody else. I looked all over the website. There was no clear information about it said their grace period was 29 minutes. But then AI had said it's 29 minutes. And then for 1 hour, there's a charge for an hour charge. And then after that, it's a full day rental. So when I picked it up at the hotel place, I said, hey, do you know what the policy is? Because this is what AI has said, but I can't find it anywhere on your website. And he said, I'm not actually sure either. Let me search. And he said, oh, yeah, it looks like there is a 1 hour rate. So if you return it from like minute 29 to minute, 89, you're good. There's like a 1 hour charge he's like, it'll probably be like $20. I returned the car exactly 25 hours later and they charged me like $280. They charged me for a full second day. And so I emailed and said, hey, this was within the 90-minute grace period that the agent that I talked to when I rented the car confirmed was your policy. And they wrote back and said, well, that's actually not our policy. And I was like, well,
Mm.
your
Oh,
agent
no.
told me it was because they searched and saw it, and so they ended up honoring and just charging me the one-day rental, and I was like, I mean, he even it, like, says on the thing, like, what my return time is gonna be, and so that was misinformation apparently, but because A, they didn't correct it on their website, and B, their person searched and saw it and said, "Well, it must be here because, Gemini says that it's true," they honored it, which felt like
Mhm.
a great thing to do, but hopefully somebody is listening and paying attention to those signals and saying, okay, we need to correct this misinformation. Because if this was a hallucination that came from an information void, enough people are believing it. Because it wasn't just that one place. It was like, I saw it like on Reddit and ChatGPT and all these places. And I was like, well, it must be true. And maybe they've just removed it from their website. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how companies handle those situations because they're going to start as one offs and then they're going to like quickly scale if people don't have plans for communicating in those voids.
Yeah. Wow, that's there are stories like that that have gone viral, like the airline in Canada that it's a whole long story, but they didn't wanna
Yep,
honor
but
the
that was on their website, and that's why
refund
they were
policy.
culpable for it because it was on their this
Yeah.
was, like, literally, like, Gemini said, like, "Oh, you're fine," and then ChatGPT was like, "Yeah, they've gotta, from minutes 30 to 89 is a 1-hour charge."
Isn't it crazy how as a customer you have to be your own lawyer? You literally have to, like, go read the fine print to argue your way to it's just crazy. That's why the companies that focus on customer experience, they're just so beloved because so many companies are just they're trying to pull the wool over customers' eyes just to make a dollar. It's just crazy.
But also thank God for the advances in AI to level the playing field in a way,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because now anyone can go to AI and at least have, like, a better opening argument.
Yeah, it's crazy. AI really is democratizing so much, and it's really an exciting time to be in the airplane seat that we have. It's just like it's so interesting.
Absolutely.
What are some exciting things you have coming up this year? Are there like any exciting places you'll be traveling for speaking or opportunities that you want to share with us?
Oh, thank you for asking. I am traveling all over the place. I think I've got about 40 confirmed events on my calendar this year. Last year, I spoke in 22 states. This year, it's going to be more than that. And it's been really fun to get to expand the types of industries that I speak to. I'm doing a lot this year with like franchises,
Yeah.
home services, hospitality, and to be able to sort of help them rethink you know, w what is specific about this moment in time? As we've just been talking about, 26 is a very different customer environment than 2023. What is it that we're doing this year? Because what our customers want, need, demand is very different than even just a couple of years ago, and it's constantly evolving. So, I'm really excited about every time I have the opportunity to work with a company and sort of get that, like, fly on the wall view or bird's eye view of what they're thinking about, what their executives are worried about, what their customers are demanding. It's a really fun way to, you know, think about how to create super fans for that specific company or within the confines of that specific industry, which is really, really fun.
Well, Brittany, I love talking to you. I love seeing your pretty face and hearing your smart ideas. And thank you so much for stopping by the Modern Customer.
Oh my gosh, you're my favorite podcast. It always comes up first. You're before Trevor Noah. So like anytime I'm on a plane or something in my Apple podcast, I'm like, there's Blake, and there's Trevor, and there's like some of the other ones, like everything everywhere daily is another
Wow.
podcast that I love. That's a daily podcast. So anybody listening right now, that's your bonus. Go check it out. It's a great
What is it
podcast.
called?
It's called Everything Everywhere Daily.
Wow.
And the host, Gary Arndt, gives you basically like the most interesting summary of something that you never would have, like, thought
Oh,
that
I
you
love that
wanted
kind
to
of
know
stuff.
about. Sometimes it's stuff that's on your radar, but sometimes it's, like, a really random, like, fact or event or it's just it's so great. I love it. My kids love it too. Like, it's one of those it's most of the episodes are family friendly. Every now and then there's ones where it's like, like the one a few days ago was about Sigmund Freud, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna skip this one at bedtime." But most of them are family friendly, and he always has a disclaimer when it's not. But thank you
Okay.
for having me on
Yeah.
one of my very favorite pods. It's always great to see
Oh,
you.
thank you. Well, congrats on your incredible success and so excited for you. And you'll have to come back before the end of the year. We'll have you back. Maybe we
I'm
can do
in.
like a holiday episode. Feels
I
so
would
far
love that.
away.
Maybe we can do it in person. Maybe I can get to
Ah,
LA and we can do an
we
in-person
keep
holiday.
trying. We need to. Have we even met in person?
Oh my gosh, I feel like we have because 'cause we've been friends forever, but maybe not.
We
Is
have
it
not
that's
met.
another, like, what an amazing time that we live in, that we
We
have been
feel
friends
like
for
we
so long,
have.
and we're like,
Yeah.
"Have we met in person?"
We feel
Because
like we have. Yeah, but we haven't.
yeah,
That's
that's one of
crazy.
the amazing things about technology.
Yeah, amazing. Well, everybody, you have to check out Brittany Hodak. She is one of the best speakers out there. So be sure to follow her and get her content. BrittanyHodak.com, right?
That's it.
All right, good. All right,
Awesome.
BrittanyHodak.com. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like or subscribe and follow my social content on other platforms where I post content daily, including X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and more.